Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hannah Olson and I live in Minnesota with my husband and our 3 young children. I love sharing about all things motherhood, homemaking, and homeschooling. I'm excited that you came across my video today somehow. Maybe you're already a subscriber. If not, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you love all of the content that I listed above, especially homeschooling and homemaking. But I love sharing about homeschool curriculum and all of the different things that have worked for us in the past and what we're currently doing. And I feel like it's that time of year right now when I'm sitting down to share what we've been doing for this school year, especially if it's been new to us, which several things have been, and how it's going for us, what we think about it, if it's been successful, if I think we'll stick with it, all of those things. So today I'm sharing about our reading curriculum or our reading program that teaches our kids how to read. And I did make a pivot this year from past years, different things and strategies and programs I've tried in the past, and I am loving the curriculum, the program I'm sharing with you today. It's called All About Reading, and I have actually both of my kids who I homeschool in that program now, just at separate levels. So Sophie, who's our first grader, who turns 7 soon, she is in the level that I'm sharing with you today. And then I also have an almost 5-year-old. He's in pre-K and he is doing their pre-reading program. So I am really excited to share about those things, and I hope this video is helpful for you. I do want to mention, since it is that time of year when we are getting more deeply into our curriculum and we are really seeing if it is successful, if it is a good fit for our family, I do have a couple other videos that just went up on my channel. Hopefully those would be helpful for you as well if you're a homeschooling mom. So I most recently had a video go up about Christian Light Math, which is also called CLE sometimes. So Christian Light Math, which is what we're doing with my first grader, Sophie, and we've been loving it. So I have a video all about that so you can really see why we like it and why so many other moms love it too. I also have a video up about 5 in a row, which is a wonderful way to approach unit studies or family subjects as a homeschool family. We have been adoring 5 in a row for our family, and I have a whole video all about that. It's basically a weekly unit study guide that covers different children's books, and it's just been so perfect for us and so much fun. So be sure to check out those other videos too if you want a more recent update about some of these new programs or curriculum we've been using. All right, let's jump into the curriculum we're talking about today. It's called All About Reading. That's right here at the top, of course, and this is the teacher's manual or parent guide or whatever you want to call it. It's the teacher's manual according to this program. And this is an open and go, very comprehensive, step-by-step, multi-sensory reading program. Did I cover all the bases there? Basically, it is nothing you need to overly prepare for. It's open and go, which is so wonderful. It is scripted for you, so if you do not feel confident teaching reading yourself, then it says everything that you need to say and the concepts that you need to explain to your child. All those little nuances and rules of the English language, it's all in here for you. So this curriculum is made for parents, for teachers, and like tutors. I used to be a Title I teacher, and I wish I had All About Reading because I think it would have made a huge difference. I taught small group math and reading interventions in the public schools before I stayed home with our kids. But anyway, it is so effective. It is made to be very step-by-step, very intuitive or not overwhelming. And I love that about this program. Even though I have taught kids how to read in the past, even though I've been a teacher and I was trained as a teacher, I've always had a passion for teaching reading. Something I love about this program is the fact that there are no gaps and you know you're not missing any certain concepts. And I had maybe an idea just because I used to teach reading, and I had an idea as to the order of different sounds and consonants and blends and all of those things that I wanted to teach my kids. I love that this has it laid out perfectly for you, so there is no guesswork. You know exactly what you need to do next. Something else you should know about All About Reading is that it is a mastery program, a mastery-based program, which means that they make sure that your student masters every single concept before they move on to the next one, so that every single step, every single lesson builds upon the lesson before it or the concept before it, and you know that your child truly has mastered what came beforehand. And there are ways to review throughout the level. I wanted to say throughout the year, but it's not specifically set up for exactly a school year. But it is wonderful in terms of making sure your child masters every little bit along the way. And there should be no gaps in this program if you follow it step by step, like in the teacher's manual. So All About Reading focuses on 5 key components of reading. I'll just read it out of the teacher's manual here. And they say that their program teaches all of them thoroughly. First of all is phonological awareness. Second is phonics and decoding. And personally, I believe that phonics, and I know many other teachers do too, phonics is huge, 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 huge in terms of teaching reading. And I wanted a phonics-based program, one that truly taught decoding skills for my kids, not just memorizing words or just sight words, sometimes those are called. And so anyway, phonics and decoding is huge. Then this program also teaches fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Okay, so I have Sophie right now in the level called Level 1. Level 1 right here. That does not mean first grade necessarily. I just have her in Level 1. And this program is not meant to be strictly corresponding with grade levels. It's truly based on what concepts your child has mastered and where you/the placement guidelines feel your student should be. So they have at the start of the teacher's manual a place that says, is your student at the right level? And I was kind of bouncing back and forth between what level I should put Sophie in, but I looked at all of the placement guidelines or the checklist that they give you both online, and then it's here in this teacher's manual. But when I was considering purchasing this curriculum, I looked online and I determined that I wanted her in Level 1. So that is what we are doing right now. Now Level 1, let me see. Level 1 is 53 lessons long. And I know that doesn't sound very long, like we could whack that out in, a matter of weeks and then move on to the next level. And you very well might be able to do that, but they do remind you at the start of this teacher's manual that it is not meant to be one lesson per day necessarily. Some lessons, they even say, could stretch to a week. It's not meaning that this is a 53-week long program. We did have one lesson last week that I think I stretched to 3 days just because I felt it would be overwhelming. Otherwise, it's a lot in terms of maybe drill, but I don't want to say the drill is done in a way that overwhelms your child or is boring. They do it in a wonderful multi-sensory way, and like I said, I'll show you all the different pieces here in a sec, but I just determined as the parent, knowing my child and knowing how long we were sitting for, I wanted us to split up that lesson. So anyway, there are 53 lessons in Level 1, and I really like how they lay out every bit step by step. I apologize if you can hear my dishwasher in the background, but that is a necessary task today, and I'm just letting it go, letting it get done, and hopefully that's not loud for you in the background. I got a new dishwasher recently, and I'm very, very grateful for it. So aside from this teacher's manual, it's pretty thick. It's a pretty thick teacher's manual. You also get, and I'll show you inside the teacher's manual, but I just want to show you how this all pieces together. This is the kind of hacked off or cut off front cover of the student or the learning activity book. So this was a book that looked kind of like this, and then I cut off the front cover. I got a, what is this? A 1.5 inch binder. So one of the quite thick binders. I wish I knew exactly. Anyway, I think it's 1.5 inches. I'll link it down below if I find what I bought, just to help you. And then what I did was I got heavy duty sheet protectors, and I'll flip this open. Also, there is a sticker chart, which is very motivating. Never underestimate the power of a good sticker or progress chart. So that is our sticker chart, a read aloud record, which I do not personally use. But then they jump into the activities, and I just divided this up. I guess I would then have 53 of these pockets, one for each of the 53 lessons. Inside each heavy duty sheet protector, I went through and I had cut out all of the necessary pieces of various activities paper clipped together, what I thought I would need to. This is a little more simple up here. Maybe I'll flip to the back for you. Here in the back, we've got all sorts, not really the back, this is lesson 23, but I'm trying to show you the variety here of different activities. So you'll see here I've paper clipped together little activities that I've had to cut out. They have a lot of creative ideas and it's very fun. But I wanted to explain that in each of these lessons, almost every single lesson has a practice sheet. This is one of their practice sheets and it's just a piece of paper. And sorry if it doesn't zoom in well. It always wants to look at faces, the camera does. But we've got all sorts of words to review. It usually says something like new words, phrases, and either sentences or names, like the name Slim or something like that. So your child then practices these different words, practices usually phrases, which are a couple to a few words long, and sentences. And some practice sheets are longer than others, and that's why I have in the past stretched a couple lessons, like I said, a little longer, because if it's front and back, that just gets to be a lot. Or sometimes I'll tell Sophie we'll do buddy reading. I'll read a word, she'll read a word, and so on. So this is a practice sheet. This is what a lot of them look like, but as we've progressed, a lot of them are a little longer or a little more word heavy. I absolutely love having all of these activities in the binder. This is basically, like, I would say definitely do this. Don't leave everything in the student activity book or just attempt to cut it out every day. I spent a number of hours before the school year began cutting out the activities that we needed, and just some of them have little pieces. It's not every single day, but maybe the majority of days, not this one, the majority of days have just a couple pieces to cut out, and you could do that as you go, but I've found that it is so nice to truly treat the program as open and go. And I love how then, let's see here, we've got sometimes a sheet called a warm-up sheet. This one is called a warm-up sheet. I wonder if you can see in the top right-hand corner, it says it's a warm-up sheet for a certain story. This one is called Get Them. The warm-up, or the story is called Get Them. And so your child then, maybe there's some background knowledge to talk about in terms of a couple pictures or what they might see in their story, and I'll show you the reader too. Then there are words that were taught in previous lessons and some phrases that your child will see in the story. And then the other side of this same page is for a different story. It's still for the same lesson. So this is lesson 19. Lesson 19, you read the story Get Them after you practice this page. It's the warm-up sheet. Or you do the warm-up sheet for the red pen. And so that's, again, why I sometimes split it up if I feel like it was good enough for us one day to just do the practice, the warm-up sheet for one story and read one story, among other skills that you work on in most of the daily lessons. So anyway, I just had to show you, this is the learning activity book. Rip out everything, get it organized so you're all set to go. It is totally worth it. I did not laminate all of the sheets. I figured it was good enough to keep them in a heavy-duty sheet protector. I can link down below in the description box which heavy-duty sheet protectors I found too. Also a part of this program or this level, I did show you the sticker progress chart, the sticker chart. And that is motivating, of course, especially with younger grades or younger ages. Then there is this reading review box. Kind of hard to show you, I guess. Anyway, this is the reading review box, and it is used for storing your phonogram cards, word cards, and there is a viewfinder bookmark. I'll just show you quickly inside how it looks. We've got, this is just styrofoam in the back to kind of boost it up or whatever. But this is the viewfinder. I love this thing. Just basically anything that can help your child focus on one word at a time. I like to flip it over to the blank side, and then it highlights just about one and a half words at a time for Sophie. That helps with focus, I have found. And then there are different tabs in here. That's going to be harder for me to focus on, but I'll explain them to you. We have a tab called Phonogram Cards Review, Phonogram Cards Mastered, and so when they're talking about those, that means certain sounds like CH says ch, or SH, sometimes it is just a single letter, so basically sounds, and Sophie has mastered all of them. So over time they have gotten moved to the mastered tab. There are also a couple phonogram cards still waiting here in the wings. It says future lessons, and so same with the word cards. We've got word cards review, we've got mastered word cards, and we've got word cards for future lessons. And so let me pull a future lessons word card. This is the word classes. Here's sunset. Later on we'll be doing more compound words. We've got a word here, and I wanted to explain this for you. It says or, but this is it has a picture of a frog because it is a leap word. Leap word is their way of explaining sight words, but they teach them in a very deliberate way about how certain words don't follow the rules of the English language. And yeah, they teach it in a very logical way. So this is not a sight words heavy curriculum. Your reader for your child is 100% decodable. So they can crack the code, they know all of the rules, and they can deliberately and methodically sound out every word, or they have learned just a couple leap words in the stories that they're reading. Of course, they also have those practice pages and then warm-up pages, and I'll show you in the teacher's manual how a typical lesson would look, but it has been wonderful so far. Before we jump into the teacher's manual, which I think will give you a good picture of the flow of a whole lesson and how all these elements go together, I want to show you this, and then I think one more thing. This is one of the 3 readers. There are 3 volumes of readers that go along with level 1. And they each have multiple stories inside. Let me see here. We're in volume 2 right now. It's called The Runt Pig, but the whole story is not about the runt pig. It's just a collection of short stories. So the first one here is called Lost in the Bog. And I'm sure you can hear my Minnesotan accent with that one. Gump must act fast. Gump can run. That is it. Gump ran fast. And the illustrations are so pretty. Maybe I can get it to focus here. They are really pretty illustrations. And something I love about the stories in this level is they are not really dry and boring and repetitive. So it's not, well, all I'm thinking of right now is Dr. Seuss, and that's not usually dry and boring, but I'm just thinking of a page in it, like Pat sat on cat, Pat sat on hat, Pat sat on bat, where you just change like the subject, or you change like the action of what they're doing at the end of every sentence. And this is a lot different. I feel like there's such a variety in sentence structures, so it kind of throws your child off in a good way, and it prevents them from predicting, you know, it's just a different end of the sentence, like one different word every time. It really forces your child to decode everything and sound out everything, and I love it. It's deliberate, but it is not boring in the least. Finally, the last part of level 1 here is the letter tiles, Anyway, it's the letter tiles app, or you can choose physical letter tiles. Now, since we have no tablets, no iPad, nothing large that our kids could really do, and I also like to be, as a friend of mine calls, screen light as a family. We're not screen free, but we like to be screen light. I opted for the physical tiles. So I have my physical letter tiles in a little bag here, and this is like a title. Whoops, I just threw one across the room. This says consonant teams. That's not very helpful for you to see. But anyway, it came as a little set. So when I purchased this curriculum, I selected that I wanted the physical letter tiles, and it came with these like heavy duty cardstock laminated letters that you can punch out. And then it came with perforated sticky magnets that you can put on the back of each one. So I've got that. The vowels are in red, the consonants are in blue. Some of them, like this letter N, have a line underneath so you know which way it faces. And then you can either, I don't know if they have a magnetic whiteboard available for purchase, but I am using our monthly magnetic calendar that I had cut apart because it has this is Melissa and Doug. This has a magnetic whiteboard, and so then when you are building words and reviewing different sounds and stuff, it just sticks to the magnetic whiteboard. Works perfectly. This way we don't have to get out an iPad. Also, I feel like my iPhone would be too small for Sophie to have to drag letters around on, and I just wanted it I wanted this option. So just know that that is an option for you depending on what your family's preference is. All right, let's talk about what the lessons consist of. And a lot of this is just laid out in the teacher's manual, but I assume that you probably don't currently own the teacher's manual because you are watching this video and maybe you're considering all about reading. And the 5 parts in each lesson are a before you begin section, a before you begin part. Let me find one for you. This is the before you begin part here, and they talk about the different sounds or the different concepts you'll be teaching your child that day. Gives you a nice little review there of anything you might need to remind yourself of, because you know, so much of talking, so much of speaking and writing and reading is second nature for us at this point. It's just nice to preview that. The lessons also have a review part of the lesson, and that's where you review those word cards that I showed you in the yellow box. And there is a tab there that says word cards to review or phonogram cards to review, so you can quickly go over a couple sounds or a few of the words with your child. Then there's the new teaching section, of course, which would be like the bulk of the lesson. Then they also include something called read aloud time. I don't use the read aloud log. I just don't log it that way as a family. But anyway, we have a read aloud log. They want to encourage you to read to your child for at least 20 minutes every single day. They encourage that in the pre-reading level as well. So just make that part of your daily routine or your culture as a family to do good read aloud time. And then the 5th part of the lesson is just to track your progress, which means using that sticker, or it's like a rewards chart basically, but it's a sticker progress chart. It comes with the program. You don't have to go buy stickers for it either, which is always nice. And they remind you that you should not feel like you must push through to finish an entire lesson every single day. We try to, but more recently, just as it's been ramping up, I have been slowing down a bit, especially if the practice sheets or the warm-up sheets are long and have a lot of words. Then I like to divide it up into 2 days. It is not a race. The goal is mastery. The teacher's manual recommends spending about 20 minutes per day teaching reading. You can set a timer if you need to. I usually don't, because my other kids act as a really good timer when they start to be ready to move on. I can just sense it as a mom with a couple other kids in the room that it is time to move on from reading. But basically we all have a pretty good rhythm and routine where it's an average of 20 minutes for a reading lesson. If we don't finish, I just use a sticky note to mark that we haven't finished, and I'll write it down in my planner that we need to continue that same lesson, just go a little further the next day. Okay, I want to show you 2 different lessons. Let's do lesson 10 and lesson 11, just so you can see they have, I've noticed about 2 different styles of lessons that they kind of rotate between. And one is a lesson that uses those letter tiles. That's a school bus that you can hear. It uses those letter tiles that I showed you. And then the other type of lesson focuses more on reading a story. And so I feel like they kind of go back and forth between that. Not exactly, but anyway. So lesson 10, and we'll see how well I can focus this for you. Lesson 10 here is about letters O, L, and W, and you review this kind of as the parent. It says, you know, the letter O can say 4 sounds, but they give you a good objective section and the before you begin section. Then this main part of the lesson, well, not the bulk part of the lesson, but kind of the part that you are teaching as the parent. Sorry that I'm folding this all weird. I'm trying to figure out how to hold it for you. I'm sorry, I'm trying. This is review right here, this little area. And I love how they have everything kind of pictured, just like with that Christian Light math curriculum. It's so easy for grabbing and going, or, you know, open and go. This shows you the yellow cards, which are phonogram cards. You want to review those. Review the green cards, which are the word cards your child has been learning, and they went behind the review tab in the past, and so you just take out some of those. I think they say about 10, and review those as well. Then you come to the part that is new teaching. And new teaching, here you're learning the sound that O makes. Then you've got the phonogram cards for L and W, and it says exactly what to do. You hold it up, you demonstrate the sound, you have them repeat the sound, you shuffle it, shuffle the cards, do a mixed review, file it exactly behind this tab. It is so step-by-step that you are not second guessing and you're not losing materials. Nothing is getting mixed up unless hypothetically your 1.5-year-old takes out the box and mixes up a couple cards, hypothetically. But then you've got the tiles out already. This lesson is not working on a story from the reader book, the decodable stories. This one is focusing more heavily on letter tiles. You can see the picture of the blue and red letter tiles here, and they tell you what to do with them. I'll turn the page here. It says exactly which letter to touch and what to say out loud. What I also love is that this whole teacher's manual is not for your child to look at. They are looking at the materials in front of them. They can move things around. They can do the activities, and they are not trying to work out of this book. And I have noticed, especially with The Good and the Beautiful, when we've done kind of the language arts type stuff out of their curriculum, a lot of it is open and go to the point that you don't get a separate teacher's manual and a separate student work text or activity book or whatever. And I have learned that I personally really like having a teacher's manual that I'm reading from, that my child doesn't have to sift through. She doesn't have to think, oh, I have to do something with this picture and circle here, but Mama's just reading this part out loud to me. It's like Sophie's work is in front of Sophie. It's in front of Sophie, and my work, or what I'm saying, is in front of me. So over here, they're demonstrating exactly what you say, how you teach your child how to sound out a word, and then you're playing a little game over here called Change the Word. And to change the word, they tell you exactly what to switch to. A lot of their little games, this is not a game, but their little activities here have looked like this. You've got mob, change mob to mop, to top, hop, hot, rot, pot, and got. So every time you're changing one letter, one sound in that word. Then it's time to complete the activity sheet. That's the next part they're explaining. They have an exact picture of what your activity sheet looks like, which makes it so easy. So then, since this is lesson 10, I'll just show you how I would approach it. We've got the giant binder of activities, and Sophie always says, oh, I love my activity binder, because it has a lot of fun games in it, and it has Soren kind of looking in anticipation at doing this level someday. But anyway, I open it up. I can see, I don't have everything like perfectly labeled in terms of extra tabs or something, but every single page says, I won't be able to show you this probably, or zoom in as well. Every single page at the top says lesson 8 or something like that. So you can easily flip through and see what lesson you're at. There's lesson 9, here's lesson 10. And the picture in the teacher's manual showed, I'll just take everything out, but it showed that front page. It showed that your child would be doing this activity. And since I had already cut out, you know, the little words that we would need for the picture frame and paper clipped it in there, it's all set, it's all ready to go. Sophie does that activity. Then I turn the page in my teacher's manual, and they say we're going to practice some new words out of the word box, or, you know, the reading box. We've got these words. These are not review yet, since they are new. She reads through all of them, and then I get to put them behind the review divider. It tells you exactly what to do. Behind the review divider, sometimes you teach a leap word. A leap word is like a sight word again, and they've got that one in there. You file that behind review as well, so that your child will probably practice it tomorrow or over and over again over the next week until they master it. And mastery means without hesitation they can read that word. And so during your review time every day, you can determine if your child has mastered a word, not just slowly sounding it out, but if they can automatically say that word. Next, it says you are going to continue with this new teaching continued, practice fluency. And I see a picture of, it says page 61 to 62 in the activity book. Now I've torn everything out and gotten it into my big binder, so I know this is going to be a page that looks like a picture of a broom. So I quickly grab that out of that sheet protector too. And this is the practice page for lesson 10. Now this one is a little longer. As you can see, like that looks like a lot of words, right? And so you can determine as a parent how you're going to read through this with your child. This is their job, this is their work to do. But what I mean is you could do buddy reading, or just plain spread it out over one day. maybe well over 1 day. So this is all new words here at the top, and then they move into phrases like I showed you before, but then there is a backside. This is all sentences. So it says tap the lid of the pan. Pam got the top job. So they are working on fluency, and yeah, this is a practice sheet. So this is not prepping your child necessarily for a story. That is just the practice sheet. After that practice sheet time is done, you're basically at the end of the lesson. It says read aloud time. With our structure of our homeschool morning, I don't jump into personal read aloud time for Sophie or even for the family right then. Usually she is moving on to math, and then she moves to independent work time while I work with Soren on his reading and math. So anyway, it does say read aloud time, then it says track your progress, and they even have a picture every day, like with the exact sticker that you're supposed to put on. That's how thoughtful and intentional they are. They tell you exactly, now it's time to put your sticker on. So that was the end of lesson 10. This is lesson 11, and I'm just going to continue on to show you the difference between a couple of their lesson types. So lesson 11 here says at the top what you'll be doing. So you kind of get a picture, oh, today is going to be, we're reading stories. Read Jan did it and the job. So you've got your objective. It says you will need, which is just, you know, if you really wanted to lay out every single item. I find it easy enough with my binder system and this book and grabbing the reader book that I don't need to lay everything out. Then they have just a little, some tips at the before you begin section. All right, so this is the review area here. You're reviewing your phonogram cards that are behind the review divider, and maybe that would include some of the sounds or word sounds your child learned yesterday. Word cards, you are to shuffle and review the word cards that are behind that review divider, behind that tab. And those are some of the new words that your child learned in lesson 10 yesterday. They do have, and I forgot to mention this earlier, a couple extra ideas. They have fun ideas. This says, try spicing up today's word card review by playing a game called Swat the Words. So there are ways that they try to help word review not feel so bland or boring. For us, we tend to just do the word card review, the word review time with the flashcards, but there are ways you can kind of spice it up. Okay, now we're in the new teaching section of lesson 11, and it says story 1 you'll be reading today, or at least in this lesson, is called Jan Did It. They have an activity sheet, so it says, you know, to go to this activity sheet that's talking about chores or jobs. So you have a couple questions you can ask your child about chores, because that's the premise of today's story. Then they have something called chore chart. So I'll show you again how I would pull this out. We get the binder. I open the binder, which I'm usually not holding in my arm like this. It's kind of heavy. To lesson 11, it just says at the top, lesson 11 chore chart. So I know, okay, that is what we're pulling out for today. I pull out the chore chart and we do the activity. See, I've got it paper clipped at the top there, so it's ready to go. After we do that chore chart activity, which is just have your child basically talk about chores. Sometimes the activities, usually the activities have words that your child reads as like further drill. It's like multi-sensory, so much like multifaceted drill going on here. And sometimes your child realizes it's drill, like with those longer practice sheets, and sometimes it's just more of a game feeling. So then you move on to what is called a warm-up sheet, and that's less of a practice sheet of random concepts and more of a preview for how your story will go and what words your child will encounter in the story. So over here, this was a fun one because Sophie has done Irish dance, and so we've got a picture of someone doing a jig, and this is, it says it's the warm-up sheet, sorry. It's the warm-up sheet for Jan Did It, so you know exactly what story it's for. On the back is the warm-up sheet for the job, which we'll get to in a second. This is a pretty short warm-up sheet. See, this would be a lesson where I think we could feasibly accomplish, we could read both stories in one day or one sitting. So there are words taught in previous lessons at the top, then phrases like did Jan and stuff like that, and then the name Jan, just as kind of background knowledge. So then it says you can teach background knowledge, like what a jig is, and they have a picture of someone doing a jig in case your child needs that background knowledge. Then it says read Jan Did It. The reason you keep seeing me reaching is I'm trying to get it to focus for you. So it says, read Jan did it, and your child reads. And they have a couple questions because they do want to focus on comprehension as well. It's not just decoding and no discussion. So they have a couple comprehension questions, usually either during or after the story, which always helps. I tend to ask random questions during and after stories anyways. Must be a little bit of my teaching background, or maybe I just really like to interrupt stories. And so we sometimes do those questions. We usually do those types of questions. Then it says story 2, you're going to read The Job. And so they want you to move into this next phase of the lesson, which is the warm-up sheet for The Job. The warm-up sheet looks like this, and I've got it right. It's the back of the other one that your child did earlier, and it is not that long. It says words taught in previous lessons. You have phrases here and the name lad. And so that right there is your warm-up sheet. You teach vocabulary, and it says you activate prior knowledge, which means like background information that they know or might need to be taught. Then you talk about a little, that's just more background information. Then it says read The Job. And so your child, I guess I forgot to pull out the book for Jan did it, but I'll show you. Basically what you do is when it says read The Job, you pull out the volume that you're currently in. I believe this one was in volume 1 here. So then it is, this is on page 77 of this book. It says The Job, of course, and your child jumps right in and starts reading the story, The Job. And so, yeah, it's not a super long story, but it definitely uses all of the skills that your child just reviewed, what they were just taught in previous lessons, all of that. After your child reads The Job, then they again have some kinds of discussion questions, just a couple quick things. Then they remind you to read to your child for 20 minutes that day and to mark your progress chart. So that is the level 1 of All About Reading, and I hope it was helpful for you to see all of the little elements that I now have kind of spread out here. I usually keep it more organized than this. I put things directly back in the binder. But for today's purposes, I wanted to get things out and show you. I do want to mention that All About Reading is a more pricey reading curriculum. At least in my mind, it is a pricier reading curriculum. And I know that that factors in to a lot of homeschooling decisions. Of course, budget does. I do want to remind you to keep an eye out for any sales that All About Learning has. I believe the company is called All About Learning. You can go to allaboutreading.com, and I will link it down below for you as well. I feel like I got ours with a 20% discount. I might be wrong, it might have been 15%. And I think right now they're currently running a sale again for 10% off. And I feel like that's something they'll do periodically as 10% off. I got ours at the, was it midsummer? Something like that, or maybe end of June, I can't remember. But when I got ours, they were running kind of a back to school sale. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Who knows if they'll do like a Christmas time sale or a fresh new year kind of sale. So just something to keep in mind is it is a pricier curriculum. The most I've seen in terms of a discount is 20% off. And I have found this to be so worth it. I know that sometimes things are an investment, but I am so pleased with this. I can't wait for Soren to do this level. I can't wait for Svea, our 1.5-year-old, to jump into Soren's level. Well, I mean, I can wait. She doesn't need to grow up that fast. But basically, I feel like this is a tried and true one for us already. Sophie has made great leaps and bounds of progress this year already. And what lesson are we on? Is it 33 or something like that? And we're going to take our time with it in terms of, again, it's a mastery based program. I want Sophie to have such a solid foundation with no gaps when it comes to phonics and decoding and just plain learning how to read. I know that they also have recommended this program for struggling readers, for readers with dyslexia or other learning difficulties. It functions as a very good remedial program for older students, or one that you can, again, just go very step by step, intentionally and slowly through for younger students. I feel like it's perfect for everybody. When I saw it advertised as multisensory multi-sensory. That intimidated me a little bit at first. I thought, oh no, is it like cutting out and gluing and crafts and all sorts of things, because that's just not the type of homeschool mom or crafty mom that I am. But don't let that scare you away. Multisensory just means that your child is reading and touching things and hearing you read out loud and listening, and then they're doing the productive vocabulary. They're, you know, producing the sounds themselves, not all receptive. And I have found it to just be wonderful. The multisensory stuff, I think, is especially the letter tiles here. And, you know, there's supplies. It's like multi-supplies or something. That's not as catchy though. But basically, I don't want you to be scared away by them saying it's multisensory. If you're the type of mom who would be intimidated by that, like I was with the wording of that. It's good for struggling students. It's good for students who, any students, I would say, because no one needs gaps in their learning to read journey. I have seen in the past that sometimes gifted students, or students who you feel like are a really good reader at a young age, they've memorized so many words, those leap words or those sight words, and then they run into difficulties or they hit a wall later on in terms of what they can actually read, because it was just so many words that were memorized. And it's so good to have this solid foundation of decoding words, of knowing exactly all of the rules of the English language and how it all pieces together and how to sound out words, so that when students encounter a word they've never seen before and haven't memorized, they can read it. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful for you. It's very fun for me to talk about curriculum, and I want to make sure that I'm not just rambling, but that it is hopefully a pretty organized way of sharing about it for you. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed to my channel here. I look forward to sharing more about curriculum and homeschooling and all things motherhood in the future. If you want to stay up to date, I share a lot more daily stuff over on Instagram at Hannah B. Olson, and I will link that down below. You can follow me over there on Instagram and we can even connect that way. Over there, I also have an email newsletter, an email list that you should join if you like tried and true recipes and you like hearing about maybe any life updates or what's new over on the blog or on YouTube here. And then if you're a mom of young children, I have a free webinar for you. It's linked down in the description box below. It's all about being productive as a mom of young children. Even or especially if you don't have outside childcare, you do not need to be sitting in chaos or feeling super duper overwhelmed. And hopefully the 4 secrets or strategies I share in that free webinar are helpful to you, that I use those strategies every single day. That's how I am able to do things like film this video during my kids' quiet time. The rhythms, routines, and strategies that I have been able to develop over the years as a stay-at-home mom with a background as a teacher, and all those little pieces fitting together have really helped me in running my household in a non-overwhelming way. And I really hope and pray that that webinar reaches other moms, and if you've seen it yourself, be sure to share it with other moms if they are feeling overwhelmed too. I would love to help as many moms as I can. I hope it's helpful to you. Thank you again for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you're at, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.